You're giving me future problems that may or may not happen with no solution.
Our minds, we go spiraling sometimes and it's so hard to stop. That quote alone changes the game.
There's some pretty like crazy stories about like standing in the rain and cold. And I remember windy days and like hearing glass breaking. How do you not give up?
When you're planning your wedding, I swear it's like the fastest day of your life. In a blink of an eye, everything is gone. So what do you have left?
The mother of the groom mentioned her son had cancer.
Stage four.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stage 4 cancer. And she stopped me and she was just sharing the story of like how happy she was that her son got to have this moment. Not only were these flowers something meaningful from a beautiful day, but the fact that her son may no longer be with
Oh.
her. It's just a very beautiful thing, what you've created.
There's only three things from your wedding day that you're gonna see every single day for the rest of your life: your rings, few photos, and now your wedding bouquet.
Behind every beautiful wedding is a story worth preserving. Hi, I'm your host, Andrea, founder of the nation's premier bouquet preservation studio. Through building that company, I've had a front row seat to thousands of weddings and the incredible professionals behind them. On Bridal Club, I bring you conversations with the experts shaping today's weddings. It's for couples planning their perfect day and the pros who make it happen. Welcome to the club, to Bridal Club.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Bridal Club. I'm your host Andrea, but today I'm actually going to be a guest. We have Vickie back on the podcast. She is our podcast producer and she has been doing so much for DBANDREA, my proud preservation company, and also for Bridal Club. I'm just so grateful for her and to have her as my friend. And we've been friends for a very long time, even before we actually started working together. So the fact that we get to literally spend almost every day during the work business hours together, it really does mean a lot to me. So, hi, Vickie.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Today was a little crazy. We filmed 8 episodes, including 3 solo episodes. I just cannot believe that we did this.
I know. Pinch me moment.
I'm so glad we were here because just to remind everybody that the podcast exists because of Vickie too. Like it truly, it's a 50-50 work of love. Like it truly, you have been pouring your heart and soul into this, not even knowing how to start. And then you just went for it and look at us now.
I know. It's really neat, like, looking back to when you presented the idea and being excited about it, and then we figured it out together, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty neat to witness people come sit here and share their story and their passions. It's a great thing to be a part of, and I'm really honored that I get to do that with you.
Yeah. I love it and I love you so much. As I said, I'm so grateful that you've always been so positive. There's something about you ever since I met you that you always see the bright things of life. I honestly think that is like the gift that God gave you. And I know a lot of people think the same way and feel the same way when they're around you. So I'm just truly lucky to be able to be in this life together and honestly working together. What a blessing.
Yes, it is. Thank you. I think it was Kristen earlier that said you gave her a compliment about how calm she was. And I think sometimes we see those things in other people
Mm.
because I remember telling you specifically, like, Andrea, you're going to go far. Like, I see your stuff like in exhibits and I see all these things for you. Like, I could see those things for you. And I remember you saying, like, you believed in me more than I believed in myself at the time. And yeah, that just comes naturally. Like, I think we all have our different gifts, and maybe for me, that's mine. I don't necessarily see it that way. I just enjoy calling those things out in people. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't
love
know.
that. We've had another episode, I think maybe one or two,
Hmm.
where we spoke about this. But I think since we have grown this podcast so much, unexpectedly, honestly,
Yes.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation again. You and I met when we were doing Boho Markets. Boho Markets is basically like a market that's kind of like a little bohemian, and
Hmm.
you would just rent or lease a space for a day. Typically on Saturday or Sunday. Sometimes it would be Saturday and Sunday, and you would just set up whatever you wanted to sell. Obviously, you had to have like permissions and whatnot, and you had to submit like what you were going to be selling, and you had to have all the licensing and whatever.
Hmm.
But that's how we met.
Yeah, that's how we met. And to think back when we were doing that, like, we didn't know what we didn't know. And I think that's why I don't remember like the exact moment that I met you or who came up to who or
Mm.
how that started. But when you're doing those markets, you're really giving up your weekends.
Yeah.
And so the people next to you that are also doing the same thing as you, maybe selling something different, like, they become your community.
Yeah.
And so I know for you, immediately off the bat, like, you were just so welcoming and so nice and so forthcoming with information, and we just clicked.
Mm.
There's some pretty, like, crazy stories about, like, standing in the rain and standing in the cold, and I remember windy days and, like, hearing glass breaking, and it's like your press pieces would break, and it's just like everybody would come together to
Yeah.
help each other out because we all, like, were dreamers, like, with this big
Yeah.
dream and just so excited if we sold one thing, and that's why it's really special, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about working here because I know the beginning story for
Mm.
you of, like, how that started.
You said that I was so welcoming. I thought you were very welcoming because
Oh,
I was the new one. You had done the markets for a little bit longer, no?
no, I started in I wanna say it was 2017,
Okay. But was the November
but
market the first one?
maybe
Okay.
2016, but really going in all in, like, 2017.
Okay. So you had at least one more year. And I remember meeting, as you said, I don't remember specifically where we were when we met
Mhm,
or we chatted, but I do remember how sweet you were. And of course,
oh,
like the name of your company, The Sweet Hive,
mhm.
and the messaging. Can we speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I created not only T-shirts, but just different things with encouraging messages to spread hope.
Yeah, and to this day, in fact, I used one this morning.
Mhm.
Your shirts, honestly, I wear them and they give me the motivation to, to start the day or perhaps work out, even though I don't feel like doing it. I love your messaging. I love obviously your story, and I love that you would work with your husband and you would bring even
Yes.
Mia. Like,
Yeah, Mia was tiny,
I
like,
know
maybe still elementary
that's
at the time,
crazy.
yeah, and she's graduating in a few months, so it's pretty wild to see. Yeah, I remember her being so proud of, like, selling a shirt by herself and doing that
Yeah,
transaction, so that was pretty cool.
yeah, I love it.
Mhm.
For you guys listening, Mia, of course, is
Mhm.
Vickie's daughter, but Justin and I joke that it could be our daughter because
Yes.
she's so much like me and Justin is insane and not so much like you for some reason. It's just so
Yeah, I
wild.
mean, there's bits and pieces, but she's definitely her own person,
Yeah.
and so I'll chat with Andrea, and I'm like, "She's you."
Yeah.
And then we'll chat about Justin, and I'm like, "No, she's like Justin." And
Yeah.
literally, if you and Justin had a baby, it'd be Mia.
Yeah.
Like, she loves
I agree.
cars. She's very much personality traits like you. I mean, she even wants to be a fashion designer. She wants to design shoes. There's so many similarities of the both of you,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're wrapped up in her.
Yeah, I love it. And then sometimes she'll just throw quotes, and I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that quote or not. Can
Yeah, I
we? Or
actually told her, I was like, "I told Andrea the quote that you said, and she's gonna use it on a podcast." And she's like, "Mother."
it was
She
so
calls me
good.
mother, which I feel like evil, like stepmom, like calling me mother, but she calls me mother. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "She's gonna give you credit for it, so she'll probably hate this because she doesn't want the credit, but yes." And I think I still butchered it because I repeated it to her last night. I don't know if you wrote it down
I
or if you
did. It's
have
on another
the
paper. Do you
okay.
remember it?
Mia, if I get this wrong, please don't hate me, but essentially she said, "You're giving me future problems that may or may not happen with no solution." It literally stopped me in my tracks, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Where did you hear that?"
She said it on the flight too, like a
Yeah,
normal
yeah. I
conversation.
mean, she was definitely looking at me. You could see her mind was going, and she said this to me, and I think I still said it wrong right now, but I'll correct it later if needed. But I asked her, "Where did you hear that?" And she's like, I made it up right now." And I was so speechless. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna post that on Instagram right now, and it's gonna go viral." It was just so profound.
Yeah.
And then the very next day, I shared it with you, and you're like, "What?"
I need to write this down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's stuck with even, like, last night, like, your mind races, and I told it to myself or to my mind, and I'm like, "You're giving yourself future problems that may or may not happen with no solution, so stop."
Yeah.
So you literally have to tell yourself that.
Yeah. And it's so crazy that again, that it was so profound the way she said it at 18 years old.
Yeah.
Like who does that? Because I think I told you like either it was that morning or the day before that I was
Mhm.
just, and we spoke about this on the podcast several times. Our minds, we go spiraling sometimes and it's so hard to stop. And like that quote alone, like it changes the game, it really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, it's stuck with me, and Obviously, like, I memorized it. Again, I don't know if I'm butchering it. I think it's 99% correct, but it's funny how one little thing can impact you to change your mind
Yeah.
or your perspective or just kind of give you that check sometimes that you need because sometimes you need to hear it from somebody else. For me, it was an 18-year-old who happens to be my daughter that I'm like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
I think, yes, I
Yeah, but
needed
I
that."
hope that people love this quote as much as I did.
Mhm,
And again, telling it to yourself
mhm,
because again, we're spiraling and it's okay to do that sometimes, but then you have to stop and say, okay, to be fair, if you're gonna really go that negative, it's only fair to go
right,
positive
right,
and again, come up with a solution. What I tell everyone on the team, I mean, including you, right, is
mhm,
like if something arises, like a problem is present, which you will have a lot of that, like in every day in every business, don't come to me without a solution because otherwise just basically just saying, oh, this is the problem, period. And I want everybody to really start using their brains. In fact, we're actually, Devin and I were just talking about ChatGPT, right?
mhm,
How I am so grateful that I did not grow up using ChatGPT
right,
because I'm so glad that I was using my brain when I was in school, you know? And so for anybody listening, again, definitely use your brain. And again, if you're gonna go negative, try to go positive because it's only fair.
right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Going back to you saying, "Don't come to me with not just a problem, but with no solution." One of the event planners or one of the guests that we had, but they essentially said that they are problem solvers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why a bride or whoever hires them can relax the day of because they know that person is gonna take care of it. So if a drink falls, if something happens, they're
Yeah.
not gonna stress out. They already know, they've prepared, they've had experience that if something goes wrong, they know how to handle it, and they're not gonna freak out
Yeah.
or be frazzled or add stress to the bride or whoever is hosting a party because that is their job.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes maybe people that work for a company, we look to our leader to solve all the
Mm.
problems, and when it's pushed back to us, it's kind of like, "Oh, crap, I don't know what to do." But it's actually a good thing because you are pushed to problem solve. And with this podcast, we had a run through and we learned some things. And I told you today, I'm not freaking out because I feel prepared.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I've everything that I learned from last time, not that everything went bad, but just how can we improve?
Yeah.
And putting those things into
And to
place.
give you a little bit more perspective, she's specifically talking about the winter storm here in Dallas. It was bad. Everything was closed. And we had a podcast to record. We actually had 4 guests on schedule, and
Mhm.
2 did not make it because, again, it was like parts of Dallas were not drivable. We learned a lot. If you want to share a little bit more about what we learned, I think it would be nice for others to listen.
Yeah, parking, just different logistics, being prepared if somebody arrives early, if somebody arrives late. Also, creating an experience for them. We
Hmm.
are most of the times having event planners or people that work in the event industry, and those people notice every detail. They cater to other people, they prepare, they know what to expect, and so they know how to make a event seamless. And I don't think we did that. Or we didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
And then we reflected and we're like, "Okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that." And from the little things of a parking sign with their name so
Hmm.
they have a parking spot for themselves, over communicating instructions, what to
Yeah.
expect, what to wear,
Yeah.
and then even for us making that experience for them more comfortable,
Yeah.
having snacks, having water, little extras in the ladies' room to freshen up if needed, going the extra mile
Yeah.
just to make them not only feel welcome, but also for them to have a great
Yeah.
experience.
Something that I learned from that experience, I mean, obviously, we were sad that things didn't go our way that day, especially as we had 2 cancellations. We had like a production team here that we paid, and we were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do next? And we actually tried to have a similar
Yes.
conversation, and it was just so wrong. So a lot of things went not as planned. However, we learned so much. And again, it goes back to, and I spoke about this to one of the guests today, it goes back to trusting God, that
Mhm.
God has a bigger plan, but also learning, right? I mean, it is your responsibility to work and put your best work out there and truly try. But we learned a lot. Like I literally sent her like, hey, Vickie, this is what I learned from today. And it had like 10 different bullet points, and I said, please send it back with the things that you learned. So next time that we have a bigger podcast marathon, which we had 8 guests planned, we can excel. And today that's how we felt.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love
and I
it.
told you I'm not nervous. Like, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm prepared.
Not all things went as planned,
Right.
but because we were just so well prepared, it just
Yes.
was perfect.
And collectively too with other team members that
Yes,
helped
correct.
facilitate and be part of that experience. It was just great. And so also seeing like how your team comes together and can execute and can use their gifts and
Yeah.
talents to really make it a like overall like wow, like I hope they left feeling welcome, seen and like special, and then also to learn about flower preservation too, getting a behind the scenes look of what we do, the team,
Yeah.
and I just hope that they enjoyed
Yeah,
themselves.
they were all super happy, and because they were super happy, I was super happy too. I feel like we definitely gave them the experience that we prepared for. If you're a vendor listening to this and you want to be on the podcast, by all means, send us a DM or look or go to bridalclub.com as we would love to host you. But oh my gosh, the podcast has been such a blessing in very many ways, as we've discussed several times. It started from a place of serving our brides, like literally a door inside a conversation with somebody in the industry, whether it was like a wedding
Mhm.
planner or vendor. So you did not struggle as much when planning your wedding. And it just became like this incredible thing that a lot of vendors listen to, even people that are not even engaged yet, that kind of want to understand the wedding industry, and people that are looking up to our guests
Right.
because they know them, but they really want to get to know them more and their stories. It's just become something so beautiful. So thank you again for
No, thank
being such a
you.
big part of
We
Bridal
we
Club.
talked about it earlier. We knew it was going to be a big day, and I don't feel tired. I feel excited still, and we're
Yeah,
coming at the end of the day. I think giving our guests a platform to share their story and then also their expertise, right?
yes,
Because I don't think a lot of times people know the backstory of
right.
like how they started, the second guessing, the maybe family not believing in them at the
Mm-hmm.
moment, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, nobody's going to pay you for that,
Mm-hmm.
or why would you choose that? Hearing those stories, it reminds you that everybody has a beginning.
Yeah,
And if you have a dream, it's worth pursuing. Like, doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but I mean, you can have a whole business one day
yeah.
and be able to like make an impact on other people's
Yeah,
lives.
I agree.
Mhm,
I love it. I definitely do want to talk about flower preservation since I know there's a lot of new people listening on this episode. I started 10 years ago, literally to the date almost,
mhm.
on Valentine's Day. I wanted to preserve the beautiful bouquet of flowers that Justin gave me, my now husband, he was my boyfriend then, for Valentine's. And I had learned through his grandmother, even though I didn't get to meet her, that flowers can be pressed. I found in the library a book with a pansy that was like about this big and it was all brown, which again, I know a lot of people actually go to school and learn about flower pressing through school. Did you?
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
me
No.
neither. I just didn't know it was a thing. So I was like, oh my God, you can save your flowers. Wait, what? And so I always like that stuck in my head. And then, of course, whenever I got that beautiful bouquet, I'm like, I just want to preserve everything, you know? And it was interesting because I preserved most everything and I nailed it. Like everything was so colorful, everything was so pretty. My two big projects were, or my, I say big projects, but by bigger projects for what I had, my materials that I had, it was coasters that were literally like a piece of glass with a piece of glass and like a little silicone, like to separate
Mhm,
the coast. I mean, they were really bad, but the flowers themselves look amazing. And then I did a flower sketch with 3 fashion girls wearing the flowers as their dresses. It was so much fun. What I learned quickly, though, is that flowers, regardless of how vibrant they look for a week or two or a month, they lose their colors like entirely. And so when I learned that, I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do it where the flowers do stay intact. But of
right.
course, it took me like so many years to be able to find a way to, first of all, for them to not fade, but
Mhm.
that's impossible. Like, regardless of how you preserve these flowers, it's impossible. And so I learned, well, maybe if we color restore them, if we like hand paint them, or I say we, but it was myself, only
Yes.
myself back then. And I started basically experimenting with different mediums and how I could preserve the flowers and then paint them for them to look how they did when they were fresh. And that I did not see that in the market. And that was kind of like, again, back then I was just doing like random pieces of art that I was selling at markets. And then I created prints to sell replicas. But to me, my thing was like, I'm selling you flowers that are not going to fade anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And so that is honestly how I kind of started.
Yeah, I remember those markets, and I still have prints from that time and, like, stickers and things like that. And I think that's what drew me, like obviously, there was other people doing maybe some things with flowers, but you could tell your stuff was different
Mm.
for many reasons. But I just am in awe of, like, how did you even know how to start doing that? What made you I know you say it wasn't there and you wanted to see it, but, like, what did that look like? Were you like, "I'm gonna try this," or I mean, how many failure attempts were there? Did
Oh my
you
God, so many.
wanna give up? Because like, obviously, I saw it and I thought it was always a pretty color, like, I just never knew.
So when we met, I had been pressing flowers for like 1.5 years at that time.
Okay,
So I had figured it out then. No,
okay,
it wasn't pretty. Like again, it looked pretty, but then it didn't, you know? And that's the thing. I think that's what kept me going, that it did look pretty, because I feel like if it would have looked super bad in the beginning, I probably would have been like, okay, maybe this is not worth pursuing. Except that is how resin was, but I was already preserving flowers.
right.
So when I started resin, it was honestly like in 2017 as well, although I didn't launch them to the public until 2020, 2021. All my attempts were failures. However, I knew it was possible because I had seen it. And I knew if I had seen it, if I had already like the platform to sell resin preservation, because I was already selling pressed, that I couldn't just sell something mediocre, that I really needed to hone in on the craft and make something that the industry had never seen. And my goal was to match the craftsmanship on those resin pieces to the press pieces that were already beyond something that people
Mhm.
had already seen. And so that's why it took years. So again, if I had started with resin, I don't know, I probably would have given up after a few attempts if it was just not looking good. However, with the press, I can say that they were really pretty, but then they lost their colors. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So when you say that, I think there's always moments in people's lives where they try something, they
Hmm.
keep failing and they keep failing. And at some point, either they choose to continue
Mm.
or they like quit altogether. Do you just have this natural drive to just keep trying? Because I'm sure you kept getting challenges no matter what that next
Yeah.
level was for you. How do you not give up?
That's a good question. My husband, he doesn't give up almost to a fault, or to a fault, as he discussed in other
Hmm.
episodes. Like he doesn't know how to give up. And I feel like, I mean, he used to play sports when he was little and he was really good, especially football. He was meant to play at his university until he got hurt. And I used to dance ballet. I was almost always like the leader when it comes to the recital,
Hmm.
and also did gymnastics. And we used to compete like nationwide in Mexico. You would practice the same routine over and over
Gotcha.
for 8 hours, 10 hours a day, every single day, every single week, sometimes. And I kid you not, because I literally used to not go to school because I was really excelling at ballet, that it was almost a kind of like a full-time career for a little
Hmm.
girl, which again, it was just discipline, you know? So again, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know that I can do this anymore. However, truly, flower preservation taught me patience, because I'm not a patient person at all. Like typically I want something and I want it now. And I want to create something. Like if I have an idea, I'm gonna start working on that idea today. And it almost drives me nuts when people are not that way, but I know that's not very normal. However, flower preservation, it takes a lot of trial and error to get it right. Like even before color restoring, just to get it right. I was lucky enough for it to work the first time, but sometimes, especially when they're like flowers that have a lot of like water in them, I
Hmm.
mean, they get moldy. But you just have to try, because at the point that where I was already trying, I was already creating pieces for people. So I'm like, if I know that somebody's probably gonna send me an orchid, maybe I should buy orchids and try them until I nail them, because that's my only option. You know what I mean?
I was just thinking about that. Like you can master one flower, but there's so many flowers. Like I'm sure there's still some flowers maybe that you haven't worked with. And it's not like a booklet. It's still there's a lot of evolution and testing and
Yeah.
error and all the things. And
Yeah.
so I think that's just really admirable of
Thank
you.
you.
I think for people that maybe that didn't grow up with discipline and the routine and excelling, it should pass on to like maybe team members or friends
Mm,
or different things, right? Because it's like whoever you surround yourself with, some of them imparts on you. And
yeah.
hopefully it's the good things like discipline, motivation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the guests that we have on this podcast have that same kind of grit where they push past failures or doubts to get to where they are. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool
Yeah. I
to
mean,
hear
so
that.
if you think about it, like we all go through moments that are really hard that
Mhm.
could have put us out of business easily in multiples. Like every decision that we make here, it's not a solo decision. Like I have to take into consideration that what we do here and my decisions every single day impact every single one of y'all. Like, and not only, of course, like our clients too, but our team members. There's nine to 10 people plus like some contractors that eat because of DB Andrea. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And so the decision making and knowing their responsibility, it is also what drives me too. And you're right. I think one of the most interesting parts of owning a business and having a team is to actually set the culture around who you are. And I feel like I lacked at that in the beginning because I just wanted to get the job done. Don't get me wrong. I would make sure that the job was done correctly. However, I wanted like the preservation part. I didn't care as long as somebody was training somebody on how to do it. I didn't really care who was doing it,
Gotcha.
and I got burnt. Why? Because I didn't even know necessarily the person that was working in the company doing that. Whereas now I'm the one hiring everybody because I feel like the culture, it's so important and so crucial. Whereas the skills that you can teach, right? So going back to what you said about the 5 people surrounding you,
Mhm.
it is really so important that you are surrounded and you're working with people that are very much like-minded when it comes to excellence in our case and the way you show up for people.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to think that personally, like maybe family, friends, like outside of work, but it really does make a difference within your
Mm.
workspace too.
Yeah.
And that's huge. One thing that I do want to give you kudos for, and just for listeners to know like what kind of leader you are, we had our monthly meeting as a team where we talk about different highs and lows and just different things that are going on. And you had a special activity for us,
Mm.
and you wanted us to do a vision board. This is anything you want on it, anything that you are visioning for your life, whether that's within DB Andrea or outside in your personal life. We did it. And then everybody presented it to each other. And it was really neat to see the different passions and dreams that people have. But ultimately, you said, I want DB Andrea to feel those dreams of yours or those desires or those things that you want, whether that is travel. Okay, I want DB Andrea to fund those dreams, or I want to go spend time with my family. Okay, well, you've got PTO to go do that with your family, self care days, use your time. And I just thought that was so neat for you to say because most people don't want their team maybe to pursue outside dreams. But I think what you really did was just like, no, I really care about you, not just as what you do here, but as a whole.
Mm.
And I hope the team received it that way because I think sometimes people can like lose sight of those dreams and
Right.
then just have this zombie mentality
Yeah.
of I'm just going to work for a
Yeah.
paycheck or I'm just here doing the same thing. And you really like spark that in us
Yeah.
to really want to be better for ourselves
Mm.
and not just for the company, but in general for our families, for our husbands, for our friends, for our children. And so, yeah, I
Well,
just
thank
want to
you so much for
shout
saying
you
that.
out for that.
Thank you. I started this year very intentionally. I mentioned this on another podcast, but after Christmas, I was in a position where I felt like I just felt like drained and sad and comparing myself to others. And I didn't understand why I was feeling that way because obviously I'm so blessed. Truly, like I am so blessed. But I was focusing on the negative and I just hate doing that. Again, we were talking about the spiraling before,
Hmm.
right? And my gift from me to me this Christmas was to delete social media, my personal social media.
Hmm.
And it's truly the best decision that I was able to make for my life. I swear to God. I encourage people to do it because you don't understand how much scrolling can impact your life until you are addicted to it and you're spending a couple hours per day, which again, you don't notice until you spend it. And sometimes you don't even notice when you're doing it because it may be at random moments or in the morning or at night when you are free. But the fact that you are scrolling and seeing like it. I mean, it's truly disgusting. It
Mm,
really is disgusting. Don't get me wrong. I still use social media for my business. I have to. It's part of my job. And I love it because my feed on my social media for DBANDREA and the Bridal Club is so curated to the things that I need to see. So I'm looking at people in the industry. When I say industry, I'm not looking at competitors, but I'm looking at people in the industry that I want to have a relationship with, that are inspiring me to actually do my work better. Like every single guest that we've had on this
right.
podcast, I look up to them. So I do want to see their craft. I do want to see how beautiful their smiles are on stories and how they're like guiding us through every single of like their days with a smile on, and how passionate they are about their craft, because it inspires me to be better. And since I started my year so intentional in that regard, I started doing my mood board. In fact, I told Justin, hey, I bought all these
Mhm.
magazines for you and I to do a mood board. And he was like, no, thanks. I'm like, okay, what if I flag what you want
Yes.
for next year and like I do the rest? So he did nothing except for, hey, what do you think about this? He's like, sure. He's like, what do you think about this? No, not that. It was more for me. But then I was like cutting all these magazines and I'm like, it should be really fun to do it with my team, because
Mhm.
ultimately I really want people to come here and be happy. Honestly, not even selfishly, because I know eventually that's going to pay off for our customers and the customers are going to be able to see it. And whenever people come here, they're going to experience happy people working.
Yeah.
So really not because of that, just because I really genuinely want just people to be happy, because it really makes a big difference. I was at my corporate job for 7 years, 5 of which I had an amazing boss who was my mentor and I loved working there. And the second 2 year, or sorry, the second part, which it was 2 years, it was entirely the opposite. And I didn't understand why. And I was honestly pretty depressed. And I never want this company to feel that way for anyone. And ultimately, I want to work on my goals, my personal goals, and I want to achieve them. It is only fair that if I want that for myself, to want that for my team. It is only fair. And ultimately, as you said, I know some of them are not going to be here long term. And it makes me sad because I
Mhm.
love the team, but I want to make sure that I that again they look back and they're like, that was a great company to work for. We even have, like, you're working with Dahlia right now, right?
Mhm.
Dahlia was like my very first full-time employee with benefits in January of 2019. She had been helping me at markets before, like for 6 months, but she's back and she's helping us like so many years later. And I know you have a lot of different goals too with your husband,
Mhm.
and I know them. I know eventually perhaps DVA is not going to be where you land.
Yeah.
Of course, that's going to break my heart when that happens. But on the other hand, are you going to cry? I'm going to cry if you cry. So, oh
You're
my
like, "Pull
God.
it together."
No, I mean, we have Kleenex here. But no, Vickie, seriously, like you are my friend before we are
Yeah.
coworkers, period. And I know the Sweet Hive
Yes.
is your calling in a different way that you
Yeah.
imagined, but is your calling with your husband. And you perhaps don't know exactly how that path is going to be, but you know what it's around. It is only honestly touching people by messaging, because that's
Mhm.
your gift. And we spoke
Just gonna
about that
marry
before.
her.
We do have no, but it's true. And I know Chris is so passionate about coffee.
Yes.
He's so passionate. And
Mhm.
again, I know the future may not, DV Andrea may not be in the way I would love it to be, but I
Right.
want you to be happy and I want you to follow your dreams always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's for everybody, and I think that's so cool because I don't think most jobs do that. If somebody's ready to take that spot, like, you're gonna push them. And, I came in here doing social media. I'm
Yeah.
now podcast producer, like,
Yeah.
but that happens when somebody's willing to also accept that role, right?
Of
Because some
course.
people are fine in the same role that they started in. But I think that's so neat because I think when you do give to others or you pour into others, it comes right back to you, and
Yeah.
then you get fueled by that too. So
Yeah.
I
What
think
is
that's really,
what is
really
the
neat.
saying on Chris's company and your company?
May your cup runneth over.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what does that mean?
It's filling other people's cups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it truly feels
Yeah.
yours. And again, the reason why we started doing like solo episodes and stuff like that is to go back to my roots, which it was honestly give back. Like, stop. I don't want to worry about competitors. Perhaps
Mhm.
they're watching this episode, and if honestly, if I can teach you something and I can prevent you from failing, I will be really happy to be back to where I loved.
Mhm.
I kind of like skipped that, the passion of that, when I was honestly looking at competitors copying me. A lot of them. I'm not saying all of them.
Right.
It truly stole my joy, and we spoke about it on a solo episode before. I don't want to be that anymore. I really want to go back to what I love doing. I love teaching. I love like serving people without fear. And that is this 2026, that is my big goal. In fact, I did my goals this year and it was like a 22-page long
Yes, I
worksheet,
remember.
and my biggest goal is like, how can I give back and how can I teach? And I don't know all the things, but if I can serve someone, I would love to. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
No, I think that's really cool, and I'm
Thank
proud of
you.
you.
Thank you.
So going back to DB Andrea, you're celebrating your 10-year anniversary. I wanna talk about the Cinderella effect. You reference bridal bouquet preservation as the Cinderella effect. At the end of the wedding day, everything's gone and brides are holding on to this beautiful bouquet and they don't wanna let it go. Can you talk more about that and what it means?
The Cinderella story, as you said, everybody has watched it, right? And when you're planning your wedding, you may be planning for 6 months, you may be planning for a whole year, sometimes even longer. Like I was engaged for 2.5 years before we got married. There's a lot of decisions, there's a lot of momentum building to that day. And then I swear it's like the fastest day of your life. You feel like you're high on life and it's like a out of body
Mhm,
experience. And then in a blink of an eye, obviously with the Cinderella story, the clock hit midnight
mhm.
in your case whenever your wedding ends and everything is gone, like everything. Oh my gosh, like you're not going to put your dress again. All your family, your friends that were at the exact same location for the first time and honestly probably the last one, like that many people, it's gone, it's over. So what do you have left? I love to say that there's only 3 things from your wedding day that you're going to see every single day for the rest of your life. I'm not talking about little things that you gave away. I'm talking about every single day. So obviously your spouse, which
Mhm.
that's a given, but your rings, right? The bands that you obviously give your spouse and he gives you every single day, you're probably going to be wearing
Yes.
it. And then a few photos that you're going to have and now your wedding bouquet. So I encourage people to not think of flower preservation as your wedding budget because it's an heirloom piece that you're going to have forever from literally the flowers where you made the most important decision of your life. I do encourage people to think about that when they're trying to plan their wedding. Even though we are a premium service, I do think that our quality is honestly the highest you can find in the market. Even though it's an investment piece, it really only starts at 1% of a wedding budget. 1% of the whole average wedding budget in the United States, which is about $35,000, by the way.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, if you have less flowers here, or perhaps you don't have favors, you can allocate 1%. Now, obviously the question is going to be, do you want something small, do you want something bigger, do you want something for your mother? I just really do believe that it must be something that every bride gets because you're just not going to regret it. You're going to look back, perhaps you're going to pass it down to your kids, and it's just such a special. I keep looking back, by the way, for
Mhm.
those watching on video, because I have my wedding bouquet preserved in 2 press pieces and a resin block, and every single time that I glance at those flowers, it just takes me back to my wedding day. They really do. It's so special, and I want that for everyone.
I love that. A lot of what you do is wedding bouquets, but can you talk about maybe other different occasions someone would want to preserve their flowers?
Yes, of course. I would say bouquet preservation or wedding flowers is probably about 75% of our business. The other 25% consists of memorials, special occasions, and pageants. We are the official flower preservation partner of Miss America, which is a huge deal to me. And we are preserving, honestly, like a trophy for the girls. As soon as they get crowned, they get these beautiful flowers that, again, honestly, like if they don't do anything with them, they will either end up in the trash or they will end up super dry in an attic. So why not preserve them as a legacy?
Yeah, I love that. We had a couple of guests today mention how they were in pageants, and one actually won Miss Texas, and she was like, "We didn't have that back in the
Yeah.
day." And just to know that you can keep the flowers from a special moment or even a sad moment. I hope you realize like how impactful that is for people to have those moments. We had a family come in a couple of weeks ago and the mother of the groom mentioned her son, which was the groom, had cancer.
Stage 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stage 4 cancer, and she was so in awe of everything that we do here, and she stopped me, and she was just sharing the story of, like, how happy she was that her son got to have this moment and experience it. She was so excited to get these flowers preserved, which were stunning, by the way. We know that what we do has a lasting impact, but to know that for her specifically, not only were these flowers something meaningful from a beautiful day, but the fact that her son may no longer be with
Oh,
her
yeah.
for longer, and to know that she has this beautiful piece that she gets to keep forever. And it's just a very beautiful thing what you've created,
Thank
also jobs that you have created. I mentioned this earlier, how you've provided jobs for people who are creative,
you.
who are artists. And I've told you that before because I think that's so neat. And to know the jobs that they were in before,
Yeah,
I'm like, how?
I know.
How? The world would have lost out on this
Yeah.
talent.
Just to
And
give an example, can you please, I know you're talking about
yes,
Ali.
so Allie is one that comes to mind. I believe she's the one that worked on
Hmm.
these pieces right here. So the job she also applied to was Amazon, to be Amazon delivery driver, and before that, she was working, I believe, at Panera as a dishwasher,
And before that,
and
she was a
before that, she
janitor.
was a janitor.
I cannot believe that you were a
Yeah,
janitor
and not to
happening.
say those jobs are less than or anything like that. I'm saying from the fact of, like, the talent
The
that was in her,
talent.
and just
Yes.
not only has she come in and done a wonderful job, like, she's leveled it up from even
Yeah.
what you did,
Yeah.
which you credit her all the
Yeah.
time, but I just think it's so neat that you've created creative jobs for
Yeah.
people like her that probably otherwise would not be able to express herself and her talent in that way, and so, not just from the aspect of the customer,
Right.
but also the team member that gets to do this
Yeah.
every
Well,
day.
thank you for saying that again. I feel like if you are a business owner, it's easy to create what you want to see out there and of course like work on your craft. I mean, sometimes, you may be successful or sometimes you may not be successful depending on what the demand is. But there's really not a lot of creative good jobs out there
Mhm.
that pay well. And so a lot of people are like, "Why are your pieces so expensive?" I'm like, "Because we pay our team well, we pay really high materials. Every single thing that we do, I mean, we have really good frames that cost an arm and a leg, but they are going to last. And so it's important to me that the quality is there, the quality of our team is there as well, because ultimately they're going to be the ones working on your pieces, and you want those pieces to be like close to perfect as possible. And the way to do it is to have a player team, which is honestly what we have, and I'm so proud of everyone that is on this team.
I hope you're proud of yourself
Thank
too,
you.
because you've paved the way for that. You've created this as a business, and I hope you give yourself credit for that
Thank you,
and look back
Vickie.
at that.
This went so well, and I'm so happy we had this conversation. Thank you again
Yeah,
so much.
from markets with rain to now a whole business of flower preservation, the best one in my opinion, and then also this podcast, which is really neat to
Yeah.
see how your career and your dreams keep evolving and blossoming.
Likewise, friend, as this honestly has been a 50-50 job for the podcast would not be here if you were not a part of it. So thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.